Yeah. Well, a lot of discussion has been around sort of the code in hockey, especially of late there. And there have been two sort of incidents that have happened fairly recently. And as someone who's been, a veteran of a few fisticuffs in your day as well, too, wanted to get your opinion on the matters. So if we started off just with the Tom Wilson Rangers fiasco that sort of happened there, what were your initial thoughts on how the Rangers handled it the next game on the ice, but also in the media, taking those shots at George Peros and the Department of Player Safety and all of that?
Well, that was the owner. It wasn't, the owner did that, and they
Mhm.
end up firing JD and Gordon because those guys didn't back the owner because they didn't believe he should have done that.
Mhm.
The decision was made, and my whole thing is, here's the deal: you got players like that, Panarin. New York, they're not a tough team, okay, and they have some good players. I don't care whatever it is. You better have a guy there that can watch out for them, especially you're in that division with Tom Wilson.
Mhm.
Well, maybe they don't want to waste the money or a position on a guy who is like a Matt Martin or Ryan Reeves. I beg to differ. You have a guy like that in the lineup on the fourth line, and you can throw him out on the ice, and something like that happens, you can take care of it.
Mhm.
And listen, Tom Wilson, he's crossed the line so many times, and I just thought it was stupid what he did with Panarin. I didn't have a problem what he did to kid in the ice.
Mhm.
Buchnevich, he gave him a little shot with his glove in the back. Wasn't a big deal. And they
Mhm.
made a big deal out of that. The thing with Panarin, to me, was a big deal. He
Yeah.
saw it with Panarin. Okay, Panarin jumped on his back. All of a sudden, he goes nuts on Panarin. He threw him around like a rag doll.
Yeah.
Like, the kid ever hit his head in the ice, split his head open, it's over.
Mhm.
Like, come on. He could have grabbed him around the head, got him in a headlock or something, and just held on to him.
Yeah.
But, again, I've been there in the heat of the moment. You lose it. So he lost his shit. And, he's done that too many times, crossing the line. And, one more time, and he's going to get hammered again. Maybe one time they're going to suspend him for a year. He does something like that. It's like Kadri, you
Mhm.
know, he just, you cross the line. Listen, I got suspended once, 8 games. Hit
Mhm.
Middleton. I never did again.
Mhm.
I never got suspended again
Yeah.
for something like that. So, you got to learn your lesson. I did after that 8 gamer. I mean, of course, they let a lot more shit go back when I played, but still, 8 games back when I played is like a fucking death sentence today, right? You get 8 games today, they're like, oh my God, I got that in the fucking 80s. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's a great point too, right? Because Tom Wilson, this is not his first rodeo here. He has been in sort of the crosshairs of Department of Player Safety and suspensions and blah, 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 blah for years now. So, when you saw everything that happened and were sort of reading about it afterwards, saw the highlights, all of that, what were you expecting suspension wise or fine wise, which obviously ultimately didn't materialize, but what were you sort of thinking he was going to get based on his history at that point?
I thought he might get a couple games because compared to the other stuff he did,
Mm.
honestly, I didn't think it was a big deal. And they were talking about the Buchnevich thing, not even Panarin. So
Yeah.
what he did to Buchnevich, I don't have a problem with that. Like,
Mm.
he gave him a little shot. It wasn't a big deal. And, I like Tom Wilson can play hockey. He's big. He's intimidating. No one's gonna mess with him except for maybe Ryan Reeves.
Mhm.
And that's one thing one time I lost some respect for Tom Wilson when Reeves offered him out and he didn't fight him in Vegas. And what I don't like about that is, if you want to be the tough guy and you get challenged, don't give me that, oh, I'm a good player now. I don't have time to fight you, Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
That pisses me off.
Yeah. Can't
You're a
have it
tough
both ways.
guy and you get challenged, you got to fight the guy. And none of that, oh, yeah, I'm a good player now. I play with Ovi. Screw you.
Yeah.
So I lost some respect from there, but I still really like him. I
Yeah.
do. And he hopefully he gets it together. And hey, listen, those guys in Ovechkin for years, they got the knock. He was a coach killer, couldn't win the big one. He was selfish. I'm happy for them that they won a Stanley Cup. Good on them.
Yeah. So thinking back to, your playing days, and whether it was in the NHL or even minor leagues or whatever it was coming up through the systems there, if something like that were to happen to a teammate of yours, whether it was the Panarin or the Buchnevich thing there, whatever it was, you know, and you're playing that same team the next game, like what's it like pregame in the dressing room? Is the captain sort of giving the guys sort of the marching orders? Is it coming from the coaches, or does everyone just inherently know sort of what's going to shake down that next game there?
Yeah, no, you know what? We've had a lot of stuff that happened over the years, and it was never any talk of that.
Mm-hmm.
You knew the game got going, and then the shit flew. Is what happened, and that whole Quebec thing, uh, Good Friday game, kind of same thing happened to Carbonneau. Hunter had him down. He's rabbit punching him like Wilson was doing to Buchnevich, and I tried to get in there. Mola wouldn't let me. I told him let go. He wouldn't. I cracked him, and we got in this big brawl.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know what happened a year later. Philadelphia, the big brawl, blah, blah, blah. We used to have it out with Boston all the time, and we knew when stuff was coming. It wasn't really talked about. And Bob Gainey was always good at bringing it back front and center and said, listen, here's the deal. We got to stand up to these guys. We got to, we're not backing down, but let's go play hockey. Beat them. We beat them. We play hockey. We beat them.
Yeah.
They take the stupid penalties, and they've always done it. Boston always did it. When I played here, they could never beat us. Before that, they could never beat us because they always beat themselves. They always had these good teams, but the macho bullshit always took over, and they'd end up doing something stupid, and it would cost them the game.
Yeah.
And believe me, I've done stupid things too that cost my team a game, but they seem to always do it in the playoffs. They could never get to the point where they turned their other cheek. They always had to get the last, and they were like a pack of wolves. And then next thing you know, they're in line again with the sad faces on, shaking our hands, saying good luck. Yeah. Except for O'Reilly. He never got in line. He hated it because he hated the Canadiens. Still does.
So, second incident, obviously involving Toronto and Montreal there. This time you've got Tavares gets laid out at the blue line as he's falling down, gets kneed directly to the head there by Perry. You watch it, it's a bang, bang play. I think even all the players realize it was an accident. There was no intent behind it there. But very next play, Foligno drops the gloves, away they go, all of that. Foligno, after the game, says it had to be done. He knows it was an accident, but he needed to do it so that the game could move on. What were your thoughts on that whole thing as it was playing out in real time?
Well, when I first saw him, that's stupid. He had to fight there.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, okay, I'm in Foligno's shoes. I see my captain laying there on the ice, get off in a stretcher. Accident, no accident. Yeah, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
I don't blame Foligno. Again, it does look stupid, though, for the league. Not for the league. Yeah, for the league in a way, but not for the hockey fan so much.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the newer fans, maybe.
Yeah.
But for maybe some people that are on the outside looking at it, saying, that's why hockey's never going to go in the States. That's why hockey is so regional in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. And listen, Canada's game. We know that. And Canadians love hockey. I love hockey.
No.
More than any of them sports. It's the best sport in the playoffs. But, when you're when the league is trying to market to those not so traditional hockey markets,
mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff turns some of those fans off. Is it going to make or break hockey? I don't believe so, because it's going in a direction where they're getting away from more of that stuff. But boy, whoever thought that Florida would be such a hockey hotbed back in the day, right? And California even now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like crazy. Like the Sharks, the Ducks, the Kings. I mean, they get big fan bases now. They're pretty huge. And Arizona's Arizona, but you build a winner anywhere. And you look at Carolina. Whoever thought hockey's gonna go in Carolina? Look at what they're doing there. They're winning hockey games. They got a great fan base, rabid fan base. They're really into it. There's a whole big event there that people love going to the game. They do more than just hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make it an experience for the fan, and that's what you have to do in some of those markets.
Yeah, yeah. Build the show around the show, if you will. There.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah.
So, sort of lost in that exchange there with Foligno and Perry was if you actually rewatch the actual quote unquote fight there, Perry quickly drops the gloves, but then doesn't throw a single punch, right? Like he's taken sort of his lumps there and then tussles them to the ground, right? So he knows that it's a lose-lose situation for him. He just
Yeah.
knocked out the captain. If he happens to, land a haymaker and knock out Foligno, or they slip and fall and someone hits their head, now he's taken out two Leafs. Like he's nothing to gain from that. But from like a player's perspective, that's probably something that they might pick up on and realize, okay, regardless of what you think of Corey Perry and sort of the reputation that he may or may not have, depending on what your view of him is there, is that something that even a detractor has to think like, you know what, good for him for taking his lumps. He knew what had to be done and took it like a man and moved on.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not for taking lumps. I'm like, if you drop your gloves, fucking fight them. You know what I mean? I'm not dropping my gloves and taking my fucking lumps from anybody.
yeah.
So, I was kind of surprised that he didn't throw it. Because listen, when he went to a knee, Foligno, fucking Perry could have, he could have come across with a right hand and put him down.
Yeah.
And he didn't. I would have. Listen, when a guy's down, he's down. But he wasn't all the way down. He was halfway down.
Yeah.
Finish him. I wouldn't have a problem. I don't want to hear the cold bullshit that, the guy was down on the knee. You let him back up and he knocks you out. Well, shame on you. That's the way I look at it. I don't care. When I had a guy down on the ice, I wouldn't hit him when I had him down. But boy, yeah, Perry, I'm like, that's what everybody said. Like, oh, he didn't really throw a punch. He just took his lumps. Yeah, I'm not for taking lumps. But he's the one who dropped his gloves first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he went after him. Like, and I always thought, yeah, he should have just stood there and waited for Foligno to drop his gloves and then drop him afterwards. And then I would have loved to seen if they called the penalty, instigator.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he should have gave Toronto the opportunity to take the extra 2 minutes, and he didn't. He dropped his gloves and went after him, and it was kind of like, and then he didn't do anything. So if he was smart, he would have tried to suck him in for the 2 minutes instigator, because come on, how can you not give Foligno an instigator there?
Yeah. So
Perry didn't go after him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. But if we're looking at whether it's a rule change, whether it's Department of Player Safety, whether it's even just, going from one person in charge of handing out suspensions to a committee, and maybe you get some different types of players in there. You get maybe an enforcer, maybe you get like a Paul Kariya or Eric Lindros who had their careers ended by, blindside hits or something like that. Like, what's one thing that if you just had a magic wand and you could do to make hockey and the suspensions they hand out and the Department of Player Safety make more sense? Because it seems like whether it's the fans, the players, or the owners, no one seems happy with the current system. So what's one thing that you think would change how that gets rolled out for the better for hockey?
I'd get rid of Colin Campbell. I would.
Just as simple as that. Get rid of Colin and the problem.
And you know who I would put in there?
Who's that?
Kerry Fraser.
Okay. Why do you like Kerry Fraser in that role?
Well, I believe Kerry Fraser knows the rule book better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got common sense when it comes to calling penalties and knowing what to call and what. I've heard him break down so many like suspensions and plays that make so much sense. I'll see it one way and he'll say it and I'll go, okay, I can see that. Like, I really think he'd do a good job at that. I think Colin Campbell and these guys that are calling these goals, like, they don't have a fucking clue half the time. Like, some of these goals they call back, I don't know. To me, it ruins the fucking game. I get, okay, we got to protect the goalies, but it's a little fucking much with this interference stuff now. It's like, I don't know. It's frustrating because, I come from an era where a lot of that wasn't called and they didn't protect the goalies as much. I get you have to protect them, but they fucking overdo it.
No.
And they overdo it to the point where it fucking ruins the game. You talk about power forwards who drive the net and they're carrying the puck and they have nowhere to go and they make that play and they're getting pinched off by a D-man and they bump the goalie and then they're in the fucking penalty box. It's like, okay, next time, here's what you do next time. Don't go to the net. Just go into the corner and around the fucking net. It's like, they've screwed the game up that way, I think. And, again, it's not, free whack and hack at the goalie, but they've taken a really important, exciting part of the game out, and I hate that.